Hello and welcome to the Core Advantage podcast. My name's Darren McInnes.
And I'm Jacob Tober.
On the podcast, we talk about all things sports science, strength and conditioning, and athletic development.
You'll find links, show notes, and references in the podcast details and also on our website.
Hello.
Yo, how we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Just getting everything framed up all good and stuff.
Very good.
I'm good.
Look at the hair of yours. It's getting long.
I need a haircut so bad. It is not funny.
It sort of makes you look younger. You look like a really overgrown 12-year-old now.
I look silly. I look plain silly is what I look.
I have never been so glad to be bald. I cut my hair myself this morning. I only stabbed myself once. It was great.
Yeah,
Always the left side. I start them in a bit of a hurry and I catch it and I stab it and then everything else is fine.
Slow down. I'm also recently out of the sauna as well, so I've just had a shower, so it's a bit sort of post-shower and whatnot.
Okay. Most people listen to us, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm good to go. Are you good to go?
I'm good to go, yeah. I've got sound rolling here, I've got a red dot up there, and I've got the backup audio recording, so let's go.
Beautiful.
So, welcome to episode, of the Core Advantage Round of Thoughts?
154, I think, 154.
154? Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. So how's your week been? You've had a busy week, haven't you?
All busy weeks at the moment. Just sort of, it's weird because you're in this spot where we think we need to be getting ready to open up, but we also don't have an official open up date. So it's like we're a bit in no man's land on that, which is both exciting because who knows, it could come any day. It could be like, and June 1st, you guys are opened up for gyms for 20 people. Or it could be July 1 or August 1, who knows? I'm building towards June 1. I think it's going to be June 1, and I think we need to be ready for June 1. So all our little preparations, I'm like, if we get everything done and we're ready to go on June 1, and it turns out that's July 1, I'm like, cool, we're a month early, we're ready a month early. That's fine. Totally
fine.
There's
a lot of that, isn't it? Yeah.
But then the highlight of my week so far has been your workshop on Monday night.
Oh.
I really enjoyed it. It was a really good talk on a really important topic.
You know, guys, Jacob sent me a text afterwards and he said that I did well, said I crushed it. And I was so excited because you're a pretty measured man with your compliments. And I was
I don't particularly like compliments myself, so I don't hand them out that much either, which is probably a flaw, probably a fault, probably need to work on that.
Do you know that you've got a lot in common with my daughter? Amber said to me, her thing is no comments. She's like, I don't like I'll say something nice about it. She's like, She's like, I don't like comments. And she said, because comments can be good and comments can be bad. No comments. So that's kind of her rule. So
I like her style, yeah. But no, if you haven't checked out the Art of the Reload workshop yet, you are doing yourself a disservice. You need to go check that out. It's free now. It's up. I turned that around pretty quick and got that up on the website. So everything we talked about, the pre-season conditioning work, the strength training stuff, the warm-up stuff, the acute to chronic workload ratio calculator type stuff, that's all available on the website now. So you just got to follow the link in our Instagram bio, sign up for that bad boy, and away you go.
Yeah, and look, it's a much more structured version of the stuff we talked about last week, and I think really, really good. Delivery can still be improved, but the content, the concepts, the principles, I'm really, really happy with. So, and I've had a great response, and a lot of people emailing saying they're going to implement it at their associations, and so that particularly is exciting. The idea that you're not just influencing one athlete or one coach, you're actually having a sport and association-wide impact. So
it can scale around the world. Yeah.
And I'm working on a follow-up blog to it as well. That way, you can get that just from reading rather than having to. If you don't want to have to watch my face, you can avoid it. And then I suppose the other thing, what else we had this week? We had Josh and Pat doing the live all by themselves on Monday.
I missed that. Out of hand.
I tuned in. What I heard was them discussing why dogs can wear pants.
Dogs can't wear pants.
I'm not sure I should have left these guys alone. But nevertheless, I think they went well as well. And next week, I think it's Pat and I are doing that as well. So we'll go with that. So with the return to play thing, it's got me thinking a lot about best practice and about elite athletes. And I just had a conversation with someone the other day, and it sparked a reminder of a really interesting thing that sometimes you have a conversation with someone and they'll say one phrase and it will change the whole way. It will crystallize how you think about a thing, and you go, that's what I've been feeling, but I haven't been able to put into words.
Articulates your feels, Just puts it all in one thing.
Yeah, and what it was about a decade ago. I was doing my level 2 ASCA course, and they always I highly recommend them if you're thinking about doing them. Like, people sometimes ask me, should I do it? It's like, yeah, of course you should do it. For those international guests, it's the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association certification pathway. It's also being exported quite big to China and around the world. It's not just for Aussie strength coaches only, which is kind of cool. But I was at the level 2, and they have a lot of good presenters there. And one of them was a great coach, great high performance coach, S&C coach called Paul Ford. Have you met Paul?
No, I know the name, but I've never met him.
Yeah. So Paul is one of the old dogs of the industry, and just a great guy, great thinker. And he'd worked in numerous roles with different clubs and so forth. And he just made this just one little off-the-cuff comment. We were talking about AFL. And he said, the thing you need to understand about AFL players is that they are sometimes commercial athletes rather than professional athletes. And I was just like, that's exactly the division I reckon we've been missing in our conversations around athletes. And his point was that how much you're getting paid doesn't so much matter, in his view, as how professional you are. It's more about your approach than your remuneration. So you could have a
pay salary, and salary for being a sport doesn't make you a pro; it makes you commercial.
Yeah, so you've commercialised your talent.
They're different things. Being paid to be an athlete doesn't instantly make you professional. Like, you get paid to be an athlete and still be unprofessional in the way you approach your game, and lots of people are, and they're the ones that often get in trouble.
Exactly. And I know technically you go amateur professional to anything, but this is just a different way of looking at it, and I think it's actually a more informative, nuanced way. And it was one of those things where it just opened my eyes that you can be a really professional javelin athlete, and you can actually be much better than someone who's making way more money doing another sport, but doing it with a bit of a commercial attitude. And it was one of those things that it's always stuck with me. So when I've trained athletes, I've always said to myself, like in my head, it sounds a bit harsh, but I'm grading everyone we train on, are they a pro or not? Are they really willing to put in the things they need to do to be the best that they can be? Because someone the other week said to us, you guys only train pro athletes. And I'm like, no, not at all. Like I'll train anyone with a pro mentality. You could be in the thirds under 16s team of a lacrosse group, which is probably a fair way away from professional in terms of earning money. But if you're a pro, if you've got that pro attitude of optimizing everything you can do to be as good as you can be, then you're one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought we might tease out chatting about that a little bit and a few of the dimensions of what it's like to be a pro, because I reckon as we return to play, there's going to be an even bigger separation between those who are able to approach it like a pro and those who don't. I think it's kind of a nice segue from what we were talking about last week.
Yeah, pro mentality is going to be a massive factor in how well you implement the stuff we talked about last week and in Monday's workshop, and therefore how rapidly you return to 100%, and how many or how few injuries you can dance around. So it's a really big factor. And again, it doesn't come down to how much you get paid. It comes down to how you approach your sport and the approach you're taking to how you're doing your stuff.
Yeah, and that's not to say getting paid a lot means you're not professional. You can be both.
In fact, the
LeBron
majority
James is,
I'd say the majority of athletes who get paid for their sport are pros as well, and their clubs create a culture where they are pros too. Like they have professionalism kind of forced upon them by the structure of their season, their club, the full-time nature of their sport. I'm talking the very top. I've been talking Premier League soccer, NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, those kind of sports, NHL as well. At those levels, the club doesn't really let many players get away without being professional, or they'll fall out of the system, or they're absolute freaks.
I think so. I think you're going to have the majority of pros, but it still surprises me how you can get people who are on. And I've been lucky enough to work with people on multi-million-dollar contracts, and still you're like, did you do much running work over the last 6 weeks? No, not really. I've been kind of just like, you should be doing that. Like it still surprises me how once you take away that structure around people, how they can drop off with that. So I think you've got a true pro one of the best true pros I've ever met is Dave Anderson, and he's 4-time Olympian, amazing basketballer, and what I love about him is he trains just as perfectly when no one's watching as when other people. So he doesn't need structure to be awesome, because he just brings his own awesome to the table. So and I think as a younger athlete, or an athlete who isn't in a big structured environment, that's what you want to cultivate, because it's actually free. Like that mentality of, I will ask good questions. I will learn from people around me that know more than I do. I'll be a hardworking sponge. That's a great thing.
I think that's it. I think that hunger for feedback, that hunger for what the best athletes want to be coached. They want to be told, how can I be better? What can I improve? But the other thing they do, I think, that really sums it all up is they control the controllables. They do everything in their power to control the things they can. They go, so sleep's a really big deal for being an athlete. I will be a boss, a world-class sleeper. I'll put my phone away. I'll have my magnesium. I'll have my warm shower, go for the walk, whatever it is. Read my fiction. Go to bed at 9 o'clock. Cool room, blackout blinds, all that kind of stuff. That you could set all that up, and that costs you $100. Or you could do it for free if you're smart about it. But the trickle-on effects for the entire performance is massive. And they go, okay, that's something that's completely within my control. I might have school and stuff like that I have to get to, but I can control when I do my homework, when I go to bed, so I can get up, no matter what your schedule looks like.
I think that's such a good point you make. And as you're talking about it, I'm thinking, if we're thinking about, I love the idea of master skills. So if you are a footy player, two of the master skills are kicking and handballing. It's all very well being great at everything else, but if you can't kick and handball, it's not going to go that well for you. I think one of the master skills, if not the master skill for all athletes, is sleeping. Because if that's wrong, nothing else will be right. You won't recover, you won't have skill acquisition, you won't remember plays, you will have a weak immune system, you'll be cranky, you'll eat poorly.
You're permanently playing against a gradient. You're constantly pushing gently uphill. Everything you do just gets harder because you're working up that hill of sleep deprivation. Whether it be enormous sleep deprivation or just subtle, that accumulates over the course of your career and over the course of a life.
So I was talking to a friend of mine about that today. It happens to raise another topical one about that. I think that we talked about sleep a little before, but I think it's such an important thing. I'm happy to touch on it again a little. I think the most important thing is manipulating your blue light, like getting plenty of sunlight into your eyeballs early in the day to get that suprachiasmatic nucleus, that master clock, to tell your body it's daytime, and then avoiding the blue light at night, and then training in the morning, and it's a double whammy because you can get your blue light while you're training, and it's going to tire you out, it's going to clear your mind, it's going to have a whole lot of knock-on effects.
That one I think, Darren, will depend on your sport though. Because if you're a pro basketballer, for example, almost all games are played at night. So you actually need to live in a shifted body clock. So for example, WNBL, WNBA, NBA, like they play, if you're an East Coast team, you might go over the West Coast and play what would be your 11 o'clock game, and vice versa, like 11 p.m. at night based on your time zone. So for those athletes, you actually want to learn how to sleep later and learn how to sleep in during the morning. So it's horses for course. Like you and I should train in the morning as civilians. Trying to get the most of our work, being productive at work, getting the most out of our bodies, being good at life and good at our jobs. But if you're a pro footballer and you play 50% of your games of Friday or Saturday night, get good at sleeping until 11 a.m. the day after, so that you can get those hours caught back up.
They should be getting up at 9 o'clock every day or 10 o'clock every day. Like that should be different for them. Yeah. So mastering your body clock, getting your training in at an appropriate time for your schedule. What else? And I listed a few other things in terms of having a routine, like exploiting that operant conditioning, that Pavlov's dog thing. Tell us about your success with Pavlovian conditioning with Gravy, because you are knocking that out of the park.
I don't know what I'm doing with Gravy, but he is the world's best 4-month-old puppy at sleeping. I don't know what we're doing. It's not like we're like exercising the hell out of him, but we'll have dinner. I think maybe so. He's crate trained, so that means there's that as well. So he's crate trained. So whenever we have dinner around 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, he'll be in his crate, which is just up to. He has dinner. He goes in his crate, and it's only 4 foot wide, so he can't really run around very much. So he has to settle in there. And then he just stays settled for the rest of the night. And so we'll let him out. He'll come on the couch. He'll cuddle into us, and then he'll just sleep from 7 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next morning if we let him. But 9:30 it was the other morning.
You've also taught him to shake hands and wait for you to tell him he can have his food and all that kind of stuff. And you did that just with operant conditioning, didn't you? You gave him a treat or encouragement every time he did it. And,
So it's actually a topic I would like to talk about on the podcast is the similarities between dog training and human training. Not in the sense of
being delicate about this.
There's a lot of myths in dog training and we should save it for a proper episode, but there's a lot of myths that you should be the dominant, that you should be the alpha, and you're the leader of the pack, and the dog will only listen to you if you rip them and keep them in line, stuff like that. It's actually the opposite in that they will respond to encouragement and enthusiasm and praise. Really? So if Gravy's got a bit of a habit at the moment. He's tall enough.
I've just had a horrible thought. Is there a chance that you told me my presentation crushed it because you've been getting your praising muscles stronger? Is there a chance that maybe my presentation wasn't that good?
Except that the praise for Gravy is just yes. That's all. Like, so if I just text you the word yes, then maybe.
Then I should be worried. Okay.
But he's got a habit at the moment where he puts he's tall enough now to reach the kitchen bench. Yep. And so once he stole some grated carrot off the bench, and so now he's trying that all the time. But saying no and getting him down isn't working because we're not giving him an alternative behaviour. So you've got to say it's not good enough to say don't do that, but you need to say don't do that, do this. So you need to give them the alternative substitute behaviour. So if your dog's biting you, give it a toy that it can bite. It's like, don't bite me, bite this.
Bite this.
So it's like, no, yes. So that's the difference there. So I suppose that's how he's been conditioned there. So you can do, in a roundabout way, coming back to sleep, you can do that with your sleep in that you set up your environment and your routine. I think they call it sleep hygiene is the most common sort of phrase or terminology. Your sleep hygiene is set up in a way that you've got no choice but to feel sleepy when you commence that routine or go into that space. So, for example, keeping your bedroom, if you're lucky enough to be in a situation where you can, keeping your bedroom exclusively for sleep. So don't sit on your bed on your phone. Don't sit on your bed watching Netflix. Don't nap there all day during the day. Go like 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night, whatever time you go to bed.
Whatever it is.
Okay, I'm in the bedroom. Don't use the big light. Just use a soft lamp in the side, blackout blinds, cool space. This is the sleeping room. We go here to sleep.
Yep. And like I have a rule, so Kate will sometimes ask me a thing about work, and she gets a bit annoyed because I'll say, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that in here. I'll say, do you want to go there and talk about it? Like I just won't answer any work questions because I think that's the path to ruin. Interesting you mentioned temperature as well. I've been playing around with the temperature stuff I managed to go from 1 hour and 20 to 3 hours of deep sleep as measured by my watch app by cranking the temperature down. So I didn't change anything else. I just, I more than doubled my REM sleep according to the monitor. So temperature is a huge thing. It's not just
you've got a chili pad, don't you, Darren?
Yeah, I'm deep into my experiments with it. Yeah. So
tell me what. So I'm as jealous of your chili pad as you are of my sauna. I want a chili pad so bad.
You of all people, you should you should have one. We should be almost reversed. I think I need the sauna more than you need, and vice versa. So early days, they recommend having it at around 18 degrees, which doesn't sound like that much. But
first of all, what is the chili pad?
So the chili pad is a thing that a truckload of elite athletes have. Like, it's hilarious. Their page is full of all these pro athletes who use them, because these are the real pros who get that getting their sleep is going to be their foundation. What it is it's a small sort of air conditioning unit, about the size of, I don't know, a couple of telephone books. They're not even things anymore. No. It's a unit that's small enough to slide under your bed.
Okay, like a really tall laptop.
A fat, tall laptop. Yeah,
laptop dimensions, but tall.
Yeah, so it would be like 7 MacBook Pros stacked on top of each other.
Beautiful. That's a reference for the 21st century.
And it has this aircon unit, this heating and cooling unit, and it pumps these tiny, has a big hose that runs from it, and it pumps these tiny hoses, this thing in through basically a cover that goes over your mattress. And so you can either decide you want it to be hot or cold, so it can be a warm blanket, it can be cold, and you can set it with all these schedules, so you can set it so that it wakes you up by warming you up, which is kind of a cool trick, so you don't have to wait by an alarm, you can just gradually have the temperature wake you up. And so what it does, though, is if you set it at 18, as I did, and I have historically been a side sleeper with my arm like right up, under. And what it means is my skinny little ribs are directly on the cooling bits, and I was finding it was just keeping me awake, because I was distracted by how cold it was compared to how warm everything else was. So I've changed my sleeping. I'm now sleeping without putting the arm out. But I've taken up to 20 degrees. So it's actually not that cold. But what it means is that you don't get that overheating thing in the middle of the night, because it's constantly keeping your bed temp at 20 rather than allowing it to elevate over time. It's been great. Makes a little bit of noise. It has silent mode, not quite silent, but it's a pretty steady humming noise, so it's fine. But I would definitely strongly recommend as a sleep support thing, particularly in summer. In summer, it's bloody magic. Because you can crank it up a little more, and it's just nice and cold.
So that's a good example. Like, we've come sort of around at this, but that's a good example of how you can pay money to be more professional. So a small investment in your athletic career, you can throw a couple of grand. They're not cheap, a couple of grand. So it might be a couple of Christmases combined from mum and dad if you're still a teenager, or a bit of an investment. But you can buy that and go, okay, this is going to help me reduce my injury risk, improve my performance, improve my cognitive ability. That master skill of sleep. It's like, okay, I can just pay money to have better sleep. And it's like a pro athlete wouldn't even think twice about that. They would just go, yep, I'm doing it. Whereas a commercial athlete might go, oh, if the club buys it for me, or if I get sponsored, that's the difference of mentality we're talking about here.
Yeah, and anyone can have that mentality. You don't have to run out and buy an all to have that mentality, but it's just that mentality of whatever you can optimize, and then you can justify the ROI, the return on investment of it, and you go, yep, that's a good call. So for me, the call was, I think I will be a better dad during summer because I'll have had better sleep, so I'll be more patient. I think I'll be a better coach because I'll have more cognitive ability because I'll have slept well. I'm like, that's a lock. Like, if it makes me just 5% better across summer, that's actually been worthwhile.
Nice.
But for me, the temperature's been really interesting. So I definitely got a lot more deep sleep. And the deep sleep, it's the good stuff.
That's the magic. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we were talking about professionalism and about that's your master skill is probably the sleep piece, but it's just applying that mindset to everywhere. So it's if you're having issues under pressure, seeking out a sports psychologist. So the work that Gavin Freeman's been doing with our athletes in our Zoom workshops has been amazing for that, of actually putting some thought into how you approach that side of the equation. That's huge. What are the other things you think? I mean, there's the obvious things like getting physio, communicating well with the physio, actually knowing what the muscles are. That doesn't take much to learn to speak physio a bit. I'll never forget.
Before you go into your story, I think all professional or all athletes who want to have a professional mentality should have at least a level 0 sports science understanding. They should understand sets and reps and loads, exercise names, muscle names. Like, you don't have to go to the level of circumducting and internal and external rotation and insertions and origin. But you should know when someone says hamstrings, they're referring to the back of your thigh. Glute med, side of the hip. Like, that should be like the broad brushstrokes levels. Like, okay, I'm having a problem in my hip flexors, so that you can then convey that to the physio, so the physio can then deliver better treatment, or the osteo or the strength coach, whoever you're working with.
And I think what you do too, I think when you make the effort to speak someone's language. So if I walk into a shop owner's, if I walk into a pastry shop in France, and I say bonjour, good morning, je voudrais un croissant. I would like a croissant. That's about the extent of my French. But that person's like, oh, he's made the effort. Like, they really appreciate that. He tried. And I reckon all of us are susceptible in a nice way to that. So I'll never forget, it was early days, so this was 2003, and we had, it was the captain of our Rangers team, Ali Douglas, and she had a bit of an issue with an ankle, and she was just talking about, she's like, I think it's a bit lateral, blah, 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 and it was just, she was just using easy terms the physio could work with, just using those words that made it easy to just get to the right answer quickly, and it definitely makes it easier for everyone. So that willingness to learn a little bit about to be conversant in all the different components that go into making you the athlete you are, I think that's huge. And that's something, again, that's for free. You just have to pay attention. It drives me crazy when athletes come in and they say, I went to the physio and he said, look, it's really important. I've got blah, blah, blah. And they just say completely the wrong words. And he's like,
or they don't even try. They go, oh, I don't even remember. Oh, he said something about my knee. And you're like,
it's something about my knee. It's like, we need more. And then you have to play 20 questions. I think that's a great thing if you can master that. So there's that piece to it. There's the how to optimize yourself. So there's that bit, mastering what you're doing. I reckon there's a second piece to it as well in terms of, and then the flow-on effects from the first piece are immense. You will have a longer career, better career. You'll be an inspiration to those around you. People will go out of their way to help you. Like, everyone recognizes a true pro and just wants, you don't want to let them down. You don't want to be the thing that let them down. You want to do everything you can. Before I get into that, is there anything else that stands out to you, that what you've seen where you go, wow, I love that behavior, I love that action from a pro?
I think my favorite is the coachability piece. Like, where you work with, an athlete of moderate level talent and, coming up through their career, and they treat you like crap. Like, you should just do everything for them, and they're not interested in how your stuff works. Whereas you work with a true professional athlete, and they want you to coach them. They want to learn. They want to know how you, what they can squeeze out of you as someone part of their journey or their process to get better.
Exactly.
They're my favorite kind of athletes.
Jack White was in our building for 2 hours. Didn't know you from a bar of soap.
No.
But he was asking you questions.
Yeah. What do you think about this? Yeah. Why do you have it like that? Oh, that's really cool. How do these work? Blah, blah, blah. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, and that stuck with me. Like, I just remember every time we follow him on Instagram and follow his career at Duke, and it's just like,
and he's at Duke. He's just finished now. I think he's graduated.
Yeah, I didn't get to his last March Madness. It was a bit sad, but
it was sad. Yeah.
But
true pro. Yeah.
Yep. It's just so nice to see that.
That's so good. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's easy to win us over. Like, if we're coaches and you like coaching, then it's like, well, of course. But I think there's a second, more elusive piece to that professionalism, and that is an understanding of group dynamics, because very few. I mean, obviously, no team sport success is had off individual dynamics. it's a group team culture thing. And I think we're in this interesting phase of sport and life where everyone talks about culture and values, and they talk about how important it is, and everyone nods their head, and there are important diagrams. But there's still that disconnect between what it actually all means in the real terms, what it means in the locker room, what it means in the meeting room in terms of that culture stuff. And I don't think it's as complicated as people make out. I think the Culture Code, which is an amazing book. If you haven't read the Culture Code, you are crazy, or at the very least, listen to the Learner Lab, episode 10, about the Culture Code, because that's a great 25-minute hack to listen to that. But I think if you're a true pro, you know that it's great to bring the best you to the table, but if you want to really have the impact, you've got to help bring the best everyone else to the table as well. And the only way to do that is through actually establishing cultural habits, behaviours, just a way of doing stuff, contributing to a culture where you have that excellence. What we have stumbled our way through a lot of that, because that's never. I don't think that's always intuitive, but I think we're getting better and better at it now. My thinking is, the biggest thing you want to bring to the table is encouraging an environment where people can tell you what you need to hear. So you and I are really good at that, because we'll both be really. If I do something crap, you'll say to me, "Hey, that wasn't very good the way you did that," and I'll go, "I can see. Yep, right. I'll do it differently next time," and vice versa. Like I think we're good at that. What do you think? What are your thoughts? We've got a very different approach to this. You're less needing of encouragement and handing out of it. What do you think the dynamic is in teams that you've been in, where you've seen where the team just works? And how can people cultivate their professionalism, do you think? Because I've got some thoughts, but I'm interested in yours as well, because we have different perspectives on this.
I don't think I've played at a high enough level as an athlete to be able to... or in varied enough environments to go, this worked, this didn't work. Moderately,
nor have I.
Moderately competitive basketball, all juniors with a varying range of athletes who'd go on to play college and those who'd go on to do nothing more than what they did in juniors. And then through that lack of talent, I got into coaching. I was like, well, if I can't do it, I'll coach it. And if I can't coach the sport, then I'll coach the gym. And then that's sort of how my career evolved. So I don't think I should comment on that one, actually, to be honest, on that side of things.
It's interesting that you're not commenting on it. It's made me realise something though, which is that from 1997 through to 2002, I worked for ASADA, the drug testing agency. So I got offered a bit of work, and someone said, "Look, it's pretty easy. You go and you be a chaperone and you tell someone they're being tested, and there's a process you go through. And some of it's a bit unsavoury because you have to watch the sample being passed, and I was not interested in that, but it's just part of the job. But I took the gig because I was like, well, it's a bit of cash, and I'll get to meet a lot of athletes and see how they operate. And I've probably not given that role credit enough for how much it's informed, because I got to see pretty much every single footy team you'd have the team would go in, and it would be no media, no other people, just the coach, the players, the physio, and me. And I got to see that with every AFL team. I got to see it with NBL teams. I got to see it with track and field. I got to see a huge variety of sports and just watch the team. And you've got nothing to do there but just sit there trying to blend into the wall and just watch the team dynamics. And it was really interesting. And I think the biggest thing that I noticed was, and that's why I think the Culture Code resonated with me, was that you could feel the teams, even if they'd lost, where there was this culture of psychological safety, of where everyone knew they were kind of loved even if they'd made a mistake. And everyone just kind of knew where they stood. And I remember seeing it was Anthony Mundine was in the rooms, and there's a bit of a in rugby, because the big boys kind of look after the smaller guys. There's a bit of a hierarchy, and like he was he was sitting in one of the what are they called, the big guys? Is it a lock? The really big ones?
Lock or a forward? Yep.
Yeah, and he was sitting in his chair, and the guy's like, "Jock, you're in my chair." And Anthony Mundine, who's this pugnacious, fighting, arrogant, backflipping guy, he's still in that context knew the team dynamic, and he just kind of, "Yeah, sorry, Biff," and he just kind of moved across and sat in the next chair. And it was just this really interesting moment of understanding that there's those constructive team dynamics. And so I suppose to me, being a true pro is appreciating that there's your journey, but there's the team journey, and it's getting wise to that earlier. And I reckon if you are a younger athlete particularly, if you can start to be seeing that that's a whole game, that's a whole element to it, rather than being that typical you know everything until you're 25 when you realise you didn't know anything, that's a huge advantage, I reckon. And then you don't have to be a leader, but you can at least have to watch leaders and go, that's working, that isn't. I think that whole side of it's really interesting.
Being a locker room guy.
Yeah, I think that's important as well. Yeah,
and again, it's free. Like that.
Yeah,
that stuff's free.
It's free.
You don't have to buy that. You don't have to be a personal masseuse or anything like that. You just do that. That's just a thing that you just work a little harder. You pay attention to that, and you do it as part of your routine.
Yeah, and you listen a little more than you talk, and you just try and learn what you can from people, and then I think that just it goes great for you. I reckon that's being a pro. So you look after your own stuff. You're also cognizant of those around you, and just make sure you're a pro that enjoys the ride. There are those people who have become so obsessed with doing everything perfectly that they're actually just pretty crap to be around, and they're not much fun in their own head either. Don't be that guy. So still have a good life. Would be my thought.
Yeah. I think that comes to the controlling the controllable. I reckon those athletes you're describing, they're worrying about the things they can't control. They're stressing, and their negativity, I suppose, pessimism, whatever it is, coming from, we've got this terrible schedule coming up, or, we have to play in the rain and we're bad in the wet. So they stress about that. Because actually that's not within your controllable sphere. Whereas the other, the more happy-go-lucky is not the right word, but the athlete that takes those sort of things in their stride, well, I can't control the weather. I can control how I prepare, making sure I've got the right boots on, making sure I slept well the night before.
The more stoic athlete.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a level of stoicism to it as well, where they're just like, crappy draw, we have to play away. You got a triple header in Perth or whatever it might be, or we're on the road for all this sort of stuff, and then they just take that in their stride, and they don't let that ruin the rest of the things that they can control. So the pro knows the pro knows the difference between what they can control and what they can't, and they don't try to control the other stuff.
Stoicism a little bit as a way of rounding it? I think that's a really good thing to chat about. A lot of the inspiration for what we're going to talk about is from Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, which is a very well-read book by elite athletes and coaches and just people, because it's bloody brilliant. And it really corrected a few misconceptions I had. One of them was that stoicism, the word stoic, like when you think of stoic, you think of some big tough man whose family has just died, and he's like, I don't feel anything. Like he just doesn't feel anything. It's just got this stoic reaction, just like a cow in the rain of just like you just don't have feelings. And it's not that at all. Stoicism is about, and it's just about accepting that things are what they are, and that you don't actually have a choice on whether most of these things happen. You just have a choice on how you react to that. Jacob, do you feel comfortable telling how you never see a fire like this story? Do you remember that one?
Thomas Edison.
Yeah, I love that story.
When his factory burnt down.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison, famous American inventor, and part of the old world of New America, has a factory.
About a gazillion patents.
Patents, has a factory full of all these new inventions and stuff and paperwork and research and testing and all that sort of stuff. And it catches fire one night, and he lives not too far from the factory. And the fire is because of all the chemicals and all the things he's testing, there's purple flames and green explosions and all this kind of crazy stuff. And so he runs back home and gets his kids and goes, quick, kids, come with me. The factory's on fire. And they're like, what? It's on fire? I said, yeah, you're never going to see a fire like this again. It's incredible, quick. And so what he realized in the moment was the factory's on fire. That's terrible, but I can't stop the fire. It's too big. It's too dangerous. Might as well enjoy these amazing, wicked, insane flames and actually enjoy the spectacle of the thing. And it's a real extreme example of, I
love it.
Look at the roof fall down. It's like, yeah, but look at all the rain inside now. How cool is that? It's just this like, well, we got purple flames, so we might as well just enjoy the purple flames.
I just love that because I'll often take, like, something will happen and it'll be negative at the time, but often there's a real positive inside it that can be extracted out of it. It might take me 3 weeks to get to that point of seeing that. And I just love that he was just able to just in a second just go, bang, this is happening. I have 0%. I cannot control it 1 iota. If I can't control it, I may as well enjoy it. And I may as well be curious and observant of it. And if you can, like, that's such a great master skill. If you can get that going. So then, you have an ACL and you're like, well, the ACL's happened. Unless you've got a time machine, there's no changing it. All you can do is, it can be an opportunity to learn more about how your body works, an opportunity to learn more about your resolve and commitment. So all these different things, because there's no other choice. Like, it's just that thing's happened. So I think it's a great book. And he's got a couple of podcasts, a couple of guest appearances on the Tim Ferriss show, which are really worth listening to as well. But I think if you bring that to the table, holy hell, you'll be a pro. Like, that's just off the chart. Yeah. I reckon that's a good way to round out on. So be a pro, do those things, or if you're a coach, try and gently encourage your guys to be pros and try and you can't drag them like a horse to water, but just try and inspire and encourage them. I think that's you'll fail sometimes, but when you succeed, it's such an asymmetrical reward. Like they do so well when people really lock into that.
Big time.
Cool. Well, I think that's enough from us. So we will see you guys next week. As always, if you have stuff you want us to dive into, please hit us up. Let us know. We're happy to talk about lots of different stuff, and so we're always interested in what people actually want to hear about, rather than just whatever because often it's whatever I or you have been sort of obsessing about that week. But I'm happy to take other people's ideas as well. What
I might start doing as well is digging into the mentorship forum, because there's been a fair bit of activity of people throwing questions up on that.
That's great.
And I reckon some of those might warrant a little bit of a fleshing out in an episode as well. So I'll have a dig through there, see what some of our students have done online and what they've asked. Yeah, the students ask great questions. I think there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that we can, and we're a bit constrained because we want to answer them and you want to do the right thing, and so you do answer them professionally and well, but you don't have 45 minutes to riff on a deep dive on a thing, whereas here's a nice way to be able to do that as well. I like that a lot. Let's do that. Especially when you're typing, it's so hard to explain all the different bits when you're typing. And also you type it, and then 10 people, 10 or 20 of the students might happen to look at that post, that feed, and it's like, it's a waste. Whereas you put in a podcast, you get 100 people, 200 people listen to it. And talking about it. That's a much better result. Yeah, I love it. All right, let's do that. All right, well, have a great week, guys. And everyone in Victoria, fingers crossed, June 1 is gym o'clock. Yeah, we'll hopefully have more 20-person gyms, week. 20 people gyms. Come on, Victoria. That's all we want. You can do it. We've got this. But safely. Done safely. Safely, with space. Yes. Exactly. Thanks, guys. See you next time. All right. See you, everyone. See you, Jacob. See you. Bye. And before you go, hear from some of our alumni about our career transforming course, the online mentorship. Learn more about how you can join at our website. I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it, and coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff. It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years. So it was a massive help. I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions. I get to train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
it's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, oh, how does that tie into everything? It's something that practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
To sign up for the online mentorship, head to coreadvantage.training/mentorship.